that is participating, and that includes Gil and Cindy and Irene Hodges. Welcome to you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, a key member of the 1969 team, there's Art Shamsky, along with another key member of the 69 team and Mets Hall of Famer Ed Kranepool. So thank you both for joining us. And we're going to give you all an opportunity to say a quick few words before we open it up to question. But I'd also like to begin by recognizing Mets team president Sandy Alderson, who has joined us, who wanted to share a couple of words with you all. So Sandy, I'll let you take it from here.
Yes, to the Hodges family, as well as former teammates on that revered 1969 club. Congratulations. This is I know for all of you, a long time coming, but perhaps that makes it a little sweeter. We're very proud of Gil's induction into the Hall of Fame. We will support it and support all of you to the best of our ability in terms of making this a real celebration of Mets history and accomplishment. And can't tell you how, as an organization, how happy we are for all of you and this induction. So congratulations. I know it's probably been a very emotional few days, but we're here to support you and look forward to celebrating with you over the next few months.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. I'll let Gil, go ahead and I'll let you pick it from there and offer a few remarks of your own.
Well, it's a great thing that happened for our family. We're all thrilled that Mom got to see it. Being 95, this was perfect timing. I'm glad to see the boys, Arthur and Ed, here, who've spoken so highly about Dad over the years. And Howie the same, Otis, Mr. Beck for sure, Bill Ladson, the people that I know on this screen. Thank you all, and thank you all for the kind and good words. As a family, for my sister Irene, my sister Cindy, for my mom, we've all waited a long time, and we're just grateful and thankful that it's finally come to fruition.
Thank you, Gil. Cindy, anything that I want to give you the opportunity to add? Any thoughts from you?
Thank you so much. That's really all I can say. Gilly says it all, and thank the fans for making it happen.
No, well said. Irene, thank you for joining us, and the same goes for you. Anything that you would like to add?
I just want to say what a thrill it was to get the call yesterday. I really didn't expect it. I think we've become a little numb to the fact of him trying to get in, but we waited anxiously anyway. And when it did come, it was overwhelming. And I was so thrilled to be with my mother and have them both tell my mother that my dad got into the Hall of Fame. So even though it's taken a long time, it couldn't be more wonderful.
Well said. Thank you, Irene. Now we'll turn it over to a couple of Gil's former players. Art, begin with you. If you can share some of your thoughts and sentiments as you heard the news last night.
Well, I'm so happy for the Hodges family. Congratulations to everybody. I spoke to Mom this morning, and I just was so happy to be able to congratulate her. This has been a long time coming. I mean, Gil was, I think, nominated or up for induction 35 times over the years, either on with the normal process or with some committees, and certainly in my mind, he had the credentials as a player, and then topping it off with being a manager of the 69 Mets. Certainly the criteria was there, and I believe he should have been in a long time ago, but it doesn't make any difference. He's in now, and I think all of us who were part of that 69 Met team feel, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I do feel like we all think it was that we had we're happy to have been part of his life, and in some way feel like we were part of this whole process. And so it's been great. It's been great. It's great. It'll be for the Met fans. It'll be great for baseball fans. It'll be great for the city of New York. And so many people revered Gil and know about his memory and how important he was to the franchise and to Brooklyn and to the city of New York. And so for me personally, I think it was great. It was waiting with anticipation when they made the announcement. And again, having been nominated so many times, I think family's been up and down through this process and well deserved finally getting in. And I hope, I really hope that it's a wonderful time when they do the inductions. And again, congratulations to the Hodges family and to all New Yorkers who really love Gil and remember him as a player and a manager.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you very much, Art. Ed, I can see you look great. Hopefully we can hear you. Please share any thoughts from your side.
Well, I was very fortunate to play with Gil. I was probably one of the last players that's still around that played with him in 1962. And, he meant a lot to me in my career for the simple reason that he was willing to give of himself. That's the type of person he was. He taught me how to play first base, even though I was going to take over a position that he had with the Mets. And he taught me how to play the game and the right way to play. And then later on in my career, I wound up playing for him. So I'm really excited for the family and Joan for being around and seeing the opportunity of Gil getting into the Hall of Fame for a gentleman, and he was a class act, who had so many chances to get in. This is finally done. And I think, the Hall of Fame is better for Gil Hodges to be in the Hall of Fame. He meant so much to New York. As a Yankee fan growing up, I watched the Yankees play the Dodgers all the time. So I remember his career and how dominant he was in baseball. And he was a great human being and he was a great manager. So he probably would have got in as a manager eventually, but unfortunately we lost him. So I'm glad that he finally got in. It took too long, too many opportunities. They should have put him in years and years ago. And I'm glad to see it finally happen. I played with him. My career was affected by him, and he was a great guy. So I'm very proud to have known Gil, and I want to congratulate the whole family. And I look forward to seeing them up in Cooperstown next year.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ed, for those special sentiments. We are going to open it up to questions. Once again, if you use the raise your hand tab, I see we have a number of questions. Please remember to state your affiliation along with your name to help along those watching live, either on SNY or the different Mets social media channels. So with that, we are going to go to Howie Rose with the first question.
Thank you, Harold. Howie Rose, radio broadcaster for the New York Mets. Gil, Cindy, Irene, I think you know how thrilled I am for all of you and for your mom as well. So congratulations. And really this question is for any of you. I think a lot of us have felt that your dad's passing set the franchise back maybe at least a decade, if not longer, for a lot of reasons. And one of them I've always wondered about was whether he might have served the organization eventually in the front office. Did he ever mention anything or express any interest in someday moving up to become a general manager and have more say into player acquisition?
Howie, and excuse me, guys, for interrupting, but Howie, that's a great question, but I don't think with Dad's mindset at 47 years old that you start to think about that. I think he was more concerned in developing his players and keeping his managerial career going. If with the grace of the Lord, he had lived to be 65 or 67 or 70 years old, maybe after putting in all those years as a manager, that might have been a possibility. But I think his mindset was more focused on his job and what he was doing at the time.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you, Gil. Ed or Art, anything you want to share about your conversations, interactions at that time that might lend any thoughts in regard to Howie's question?
Well, I think Gilly Jr. hit it right on the head. You know, Gil was focused on being a manager, and there's no question about it. As a player that was there, we would have won many, many more pennants. No question about it. I think we would have won in '73, and I think that ball club would have been kept around, and we could have competed for many, many years because the pitching staff that we had certainly was a quality staff. So, but I don't think he wanted to go in the front office. When I retired, that's what I wanted to do. Some people have the mindset that want to be on the field, and Gil loved to be in the ball game, and he loved to outthink the other managers, and most of the times he did.
Thank you all. We're going to go next to Bill Ladson. Bill, your line is open.
Congratulations to the Hodges family. This is Bill Ladson, MLB.com. My first question is for Irene. Could you take us to the moment once you received the phone call and your reaction and your mom's reaction?
When I received the phone call and I heard, "I am very happy to tell you," I was hysterical. Cried terribly because I honestly couldn't believe it was really happening. And I spoke to Jane crying, and I said to her, "I just want to ask you, my mom is 95 and she's right here with me. Can you please tell her yourself so she hears it from you?" And she said, "Of course." And I gave my mother the phone. I hadn't even told my mother about the voting because I didn't want her to be disappointed and I didn't want her to think about it. So when I handed her the phone, she said, "Who is it?" And I said, "Mommy, they want to tell you that Daddy is voted into the Hall of Fame." And she put her hand on her chest and said, "Really? He really did it? Oh, Gil, I'm so happy." And with that, she spoke to both people on the phone, and then she handed me back the phone. And I spoke to them for a few minutes longer, and she was thrilled. She was just absolutely thrilled. I personally cried through the whole thing.
Wow. This is for the entire family. Could you tell me what your father would have said, had he been around?
I think he would have been shocked because I can remember once just saying to him, "So, Dad, you think you're going to be in the Hall of Fame?" He said, "No, not me." But he underestimated himself and how good he was, and I think he would have been shocked.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Gil.
It was a different scenario for me growing up with him. Being the only boy, I got to travel a lot with him. And the Hall of Fame was never a subject. Again, we're speaking about someone that was 47 years old. So no one thinks at 47 that not only your career is coming to an end, but your existence. But he was the type of person who, if he were alive through all of this process, through the 30 some odd times that Art had mentioned, he would have taken each one in stride. It would have never been anything that he would get upset about. He would never build the expectations. Everything would just be okay and, get back to work the next day. So I think that's who he was. And I think the character that developed from him was part of the reason he was inducted.
Thank you, Gil. Tim Healy, your line is open.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tim. I'm from Newsday. Congratulations. This question is for Gil's children as well as his players, anybody who feels they have insight. What aspect of Gil's career, playing, managing, anything, was he most proud of?
Well, You know, being with the Dodgers, he won 2 World Series. In Brooklyn in 55, the Dodgers' only World Series in Brooklyn, Dad knocked in the 2 runs in the 7th game and the deciding game, which Johnny Padres pitched a 2-0 shutout. So, of course, that was a tremendous thrill. Moving to Los Angeles and winning in 1959, where Dad hit over 390, was another tremendous thrill because the Dodgers now had won in 55 and 59 in 2 different locations. But I think the accomplishment that he made in 1969 was greater than an individual's effort, because this was the person who was in charge of the 25 players, and it was a different sense. He wasn't able to go to the plate. He wasn't able to catch a ground ball. It was just the managerial moves that he made. So I think it held a little different spot for him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for the question. Next up, we will go to Justin Toscano. Justin, go ahead.
Hey everyone, Justin Toscano, Bergen Record. Just want to congratulate the family as well as Gil's former players. This one's actually for Ed and Art. Both of you have kind of spoken at different times about the ups and the downs players have with their managers. Given all of those that can occur throughout a season, why did both of you have such undying respect for Gil through everything?
Well, I for one, had my problems early on with Gil, but I learned, what he was trying to do for me, and he was trying to make me a better player. So he earned my respect over the years. And unfortunately, I was playing my best baseball when he passed on. But, I was sent to the minor leagues by Gil Hodges after playing for 7 years in the major leagues, which was kind of disappointing. But, he wanted to prove a point. You either played his way or you're going to hit the highway. But he earned the respect of every player, and he treated everybody the same. It wasn't a matter of Tom Seaver was treated differently than Ron Sabota or Ed Kranepool or whatever, and you had to do certain things, and he wanted the best for you, and he was trying to make you a better player. If he had to, discipline you, he did it, but he did it to everybody. So I just appreciated it. When I came back, I became a better player. And, it was a big loss to me because I had proved him that I could play in the major leagues at a high level, the same level he wanted. But he was a great inspirational leader. And without him, we don't win the pennant in 1969.
In my case, I remember coming over to the Mets in the spring of 68, my first year, which was Gil's first year. Tommy Agee, Al Weiss, J.C. Martin, a few of us just joined the club at the same time. And I remember like the first or second day in spring training, Gil had this meeting, and you could see right away, just by the way he was talking, the way he stood, who he was. And I had watched him as a kid growing up in St. Louis, those great Dodger teams, and was idolized those wonderful Dodger teams. And I remember in the spring training, he said, I just want to tell you guys right off the bat that you will not be the same old Mets you've been in the past. Well, I hadn't been there, so I thought it was interesting that it was no nonsense from that point on, and he knew what he wanted to do as a manager and take over that team. And subsequently, we finished 9th, a half game out of last place that year, but you could see us developing as a team, and through his guidance, you knew that we were going to start playing better baseball. Fast forward to spring of 69, before we won the World Series, and he had a meeting, and he said, in spring training, he said, you guys lost a lot of games by 1 run. I think it was 30-something games by 1 run that year in 68. And he said, listen, you got to find ways to win games, whether it's 2-1, 1-0, 5-4, 10-9, any way to find ways to win games. And I think Gil's genius as a manager was instilling in us the fact that we had to play better. We had to do things better. We had to play as a team. And I think that was really his brilliance as a manager. He was able to get everybody involved not only because of his past as being a terrific player, but you saw his managerial style. He was able to get everybody on that team involved. When you talk about 1969. It's just not about Tom Seaver or Jerry Kuzman or Nolan Ryan or Tommy Agee or Cleon Jones. It's about everybody who was part of that team, from everybody's name on. And I think Eddie and I both feel like with Gil, you know, we went out and played. We didn't have too many meetings. We didn't, you know, he wasn't the kind of guy that was going to slap you on the back all the time or yell at you in front of people. If he had a problem with you, he'd call you in his office. And I think the thing that I learned from Gil was that he let us play. And if you had a problem, you wanted to talk with him, he would talk to you about it. But I probably can mention the years I was there maybe 4 or 5 times where I actually had a long conversation with Gil. It was really about going out and playing and knowing that he was going to lead us. And we ended up learning how to win games instead of learning how to lose games. And I think that's really the brilliance of Gil Hodges as a manager. And I do say this. We would not have won the World Series in 1969 without Gil being the manager of that team. So I think that's the best thing I can say about him. He was a stern, tough guy, but fair-minded. And I think all of us, and I use this as an example, and Eddie, I'm sure will agree with us. He platooned in 4 positions, sometimes in 5 positions, and first base, right field, second base, third base, and sometimes behind the plate. And none of us liked it. It wasn't good for our careers. It just was not a good situation, but it was working. And we did it because Gil Hodges was the manager, and we had the utmost respect for him. And in the long run, it wasn't good for our careers, but the reality of it is it's good for 1969. And I think Gil was certainly the catalyst that really was the manager that led us to that championship. And I'll reiterate this. We would not have won without Gil as our manager.
You're right, Art. You know, he made men out of boys, you know, and he taught us how to win. And it was great for the organization, and all the players came together, and we were a close-knit group, you know, for many, many years. And it was fun playing for him. Winning is always fun, and he made us a winner. And, of course, the World Series in 1969 will forever go on in the hearts of New Yorkers. They don't let you forget it. So without him, he was our leader, and without him, we wouldn't be here.
Thank you, Ed and Art. Bruce Beck, your line is open.
Hi, Bruce Beck, NBC for New York. Yesterday was a great day for the Hodges family, but it was really a great day for all of New York. And I know my buddy Ralph Branca is looking down on all of us and smiling. I believe Ralph was the best man at their wedding, and all he wanted was for Gil to get into the Hall of Fame. So my question is for all of you, family and players, what made him a guy that was beloved by players, by family, by media, by the fans?
I think, Bruce, in all honesty, that Arthur and Ed summed it up the best. He treated everyone fairly. Tom Seaver didn't get special treatment. He got the same treatment as J.C. Martin. 25 guys, and everyone was the same. And that's the way he lived his life. That wasn't just on the field. That was off the field. He was dedicated. He believed in God. He believed in his country, and he believed in his family. And those virtues are what made him who he was. And here we are, some almost 50 years after his passing, and we're still talking about him, which to me is a credit to the man and what he's left on our society.
Congratulations, Gil, Cindy, Irene, and of course, Joan. You guys deserve it.
Thank you
so
very much, Bruce.
Good. I'll let Art and Ed respond as well to Bruce's question about what made him so beloved by all.
I think Aretha Franklin probably said it the best. Respect. She had a song, and I'll tell you what, we all respected Gil for what he did on and off the field and the way he treated us. You might not have liked it, but it was fair, and he got the most out of his players. And, you know, we certainly missed him. That was a tremendous situation with the Mets at the time. A big loss, big loss. It cost us a lot of pennants.
You know, he was
sing that song.
No, I don't think so.
Thanks, Crane.
I only worked in Vegas once. That's enough.
Attaboy.
Thank you, Ed. Art, any additional?
Yeah, he was Listen, he was a hero off the field. He was a hero from World War II. I mean, he was a guy that, again, I mentioned it again, I watched him as a kid growing up and idolized him and all those Brooklyn Dodger teams. And, getting a chance to play for him, I had the utmost respect for him. Again, my relationship with him was probably arm's length. I really, I like to tell people that sometimes in the locker room, when you walk by his area where he dressed, he had this little room and the door was closed. You knew that before the game started, you knew somebody was getting some information, either good or bad. And if the door was open and you walked by and he didn't call you in, you were already ahead in the game. That's the way I looked at it.
It probably was Sabota and myself in there. You never know.
It could have been. It could have been. But I think his greatest tribute is that, as Eddie said, he treated everybody the same. And if you needed something to talk to him about, he was right there for you. And he just was a great, fair-minded man. And again, I think the fact that it's lost in all of this is that he was just really a terrific baseball manager, a really terrific guy who knew the game, knew his players, and that's the most beautiful part of this. He got everybody involved. I keep saying this, that again, he got everybody on that team involved. And if you look at everybody's stats that year, at some point, somebody did something to help us win a ball game. And I think that's the best thing I can say about his tribute, the best tribute I can say about him being a manager. But he certainly was a terrific person, a great hero, a wartime hero, and a great father. And so all of that combination makes him certainly right where he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Art. Ed, I know you have an appointment to get to, so we have a few questions left. I would ask if anybody has a specific question for Ed, go ahead and raise your hand physically on the screen, and I'll make sure you get that asked because I want to respect the opportunity for Ed to get to his appointment and thank him again for participating, as I know he wanted to be on this call. Okay, Lloyd, we'll go to you. Final question for Ed, and then we'll let him go.
Okay. Hi, Lloyd Carroll from the Queens Chronicle. Ed, I guess I was going to ask Gil also this question. When Gil passed away, I believe it was during the first baseball labor stoppage. Now he gets this honor at our most recent labor stoppage. I was wondering if you were aware of the coincidence and if Gil ever spoke to the players about what was happening with this first labor management dispute, if that ever came into play at all.
I don't believe so. I mean, that was spring training back, in the 60s. And, he never spoke to it. He was busy playing golf that day, unfortunately, and he was out with the coaches. But and today's labor problem, I don't know anything about it. I'm in Florida now, enjoying myself. The weather's good, and I'm leaving right now to go to West Palm Beach. So it's been a pleasure to be part of this, and I congratulate the family, and wish them the best. And the only place I want to go next is to Cooperstown to see the event. That's it.
Thank
you, Ed.
All right.
Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Ed. Safe travels.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
And we have a few questions left for the Hodges family. And Art, Otis, will come to you next. Your line is open.
All right. Otis Livingston, sports director for WCBS Channel 2 here in New York. And congratulations to the Hodges family, to the players. What a tremendous day. What a tremendous time. And this is directed mainly at the children. In speaking to a lot of people, they told me that Gil had stats that were comparable to people that were getting into Hall of Fame. And I know there was a level of frustration, I'm sure, that every year that he was not getting in. But how did you guys not become bitter over something like that, to see other people who have comparable stats, accomplishments, et cetera, that may not have had the impact that he had as a man as well, the character that you guys speak about that were getting in? How did you guys remain humble and not become bitter over these days?
The Hall of Fame is a tremendous honor, one he's well deserving of. But that didn't change anything as far as him being our father. And we loved him, respected him, missed him, and we wanted him there for him, but not for us. We wanted him to be in the Hall of Fame because he deserved it. but we didn't need that so much because we had him our whole life as a father. So that's the best part of it.
Gil?
Gil or Cindy, anything additional you'd like to offer?
Well, the only thing that I would add to that, and of course, what Irene said is absolutely the truth, but remember how we were brought up. We were brought up by a man who didn't expect, never looked for, or never actually expected or wanted anything. So over the 30 some odd years that this has taken place, we as his children had that instilled in us. Instilled that this is what the vote was. Well, hopefully next time he'll get the chance. In 1993, when the vote was disallowed because Campy was in the hospital and couldn't be present and would have been the 12th vote to put Dad in, of course that hurt a little different because we had the 12th vote. But you know what? When the day ended, everything was still the same. We just went and moved forward. And like Irene said, we were fortunate because he was our father. Everybody got to see him, once in a while. But we got to see him a lot. And I think we're all grateful for that.
Congratulations again.
Thank you, Otis.
Thank you all. Mark Roseman will come to your line next.
Thank you, Harold. First and foremost, congratulations to the Hodges family and all of the New York Mets family, and in particular the boroughs of Queens and Brooklyn. You take a look at Gil, and over and above him being a ball player, he's that bridge of generations. At least for me, my dad grew up a Brooklyn Dodger fan, and when he took me to Met games, he would tell me all about Gil. And over the course of these 30 years, we've now bridged another generation where I've been able to tell my son about the great Gil Hodges, and people like Howie Rose, who have been very active on Twitter every time the votes come up, and other historians that tweet out his stats. When you reflect on the fact that all that love gets brought up every time he's up for the vote, does it make it more special? I mean, that you've seen all the stats and the love and building up of his character over the years to finally get to this day.
Mark, what I think what we've learned to do as his children, and I know especially with Mom, we more or less, when Dad wouldn't make it and she would get very upset, we would more or less convince her that that's okay, Mom. Because remember something, if Dad gets into the Hall of Fame, they're going to stop talking about him. It's when he doesn't get in that they're going to continue talking about him. They're going to continue with the books and the pledges and the signings and the social media. All these things have transpired over the decades because he didn't get in. And I think that was somewhat helpful to her to understand that and comprehend that. But now, when it's finally taken place, we're all just so happy and so grateful. And I know I speak for not only myself and Irene and Cindy, but we're so grateful that Mom got to see it. Because unfortunately, the rules now is the next vote is 5 years away. And that's a long time. That's a long time, unfortunately, for all of us. But Mom got to see it, and that's really what matters to all of us.
And Jerry Beach will come to your line.
Hey there, I'm Jerry Beach from Forbes.com. Gil, you just kind of, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. I know Irene had said that she didn't think too much about this because she didn't want to be disappointed again if it didn't work out. What were you and Cindy thinking the last couple of weeks and months with the knowledge that 5 years, like you said, is a really long time, and some people who might really want to see this might not be able to enjoy it if you got it in 2026. So, did you guys think about it less often this period than in previous elections? And was there that thought, like you didn't want to get yourself too excited about it in case it didn't work out again at this time?
I think it was a little difficult not to think about it. Everywhere you look, everything you see, it's everybody, fans just putting stuff out there, the social media. unbelievable. It's just, for me, I was very young when my dad died. I was only 15. So for me, I don't have so much experience from back to Dodger days, even though I was born during that era. But for the Met days, I do. And fans just, they wouldn't stop until it happened. So it's a great, exciting thing for all of them and for all of us.
Good. Next question will come from Tyler Kepner.
Hi, again, congratulations. I want to ask Art Shamsky. Art, good to see you.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, how much did Gil talk or about the Brooklyn Dodger days? Because when he was a manager, he was already a hero in New York, and he was going to be for the rest of his life. Did that ever come out in stories, or was it just something that you all knew that what he had done on the field?
Well, I don't think I actually sat down and talked with him, or he actually talked to the team about those years, but we did back then have the old timers games. And for me as a kid, like I said, growing up in St. Louis and watching the Dodgers of the 50s, and I got a chance to meet those great players of the Brooklyn Dodgers. I mean, what a thrill for me to be able to just go up and say hello to them. And Gil had this stigma about him. I mean, he didn't have to be around them to know that he was part of that team. And I think that stigma, I think, carried over into the way that we looked at him. I looked at him as this idol of being part of that Brooklyn Dodger team. So for me, to be part of having managed me and having been part of that 69 and 68 teams and those years when he was managing, for me, it was very, very special. But when we got a chance to meet some of those guys who would come around, it was just a big thrill. I don't remember him ever sitting down and telling stories about it, but we also had some Brooklyn Dodgers around in the coaching staff, Luke Walker and Joe Pignatano. I mean, we could always talk to them about certain times, certain things that happened, but I don't think Gil himself was sat there and talked to any of, maybe he did with other players. In my case, I don't remember him doing it, but the aura was there. That special aura around Gil Hodges was there because I followed his career, knew the kind of ball player he was, and then, of course, playing for him, I saw the genius he had as a manager. So for me, just being around that kind of thing was very, very special.
Thanks, Art. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Howie, you led off today's conference with the first question, and you are now going to get the final question. So take it away.
All right, Harold, thanks. And again, this is for Gil, Cindy, and Irene. You know, there's been so much that's been written and said about your dad that I think we tend to think we know a whole lot about him, especially the serious side. But is there anything about your father that you think we would get a kick out of learning about, something that probably hasn't been written about or spoken about before?
I can tell you a funny story, and it involves my sister Irene. And this is the way he was, and you'll like this, Howie. So I'm working as a lifeguard during the summer, and all of the lifeguards bleach their hair. So I come home one day and I say to my sister Irene, you got to help me. All the lifeguards are bleaching their hair. I need to make my hair blonde. And she says, okay, sure. I'll take care of that for you. And she goes to the drugstore, gets some things, puts them together, comes back, rinses my hair in the tub, and boom, I'm blonde. I was so excited and so thrilled. She did such a great job. So the next day, Dad comes home from a road trip, and we're at the dinner table, and we're all eating. And as he's cutting his steak, he looks at me and he says, what happened to your hair? And I said, oh, this was just something that was going on. All the guys at work, the lifeguards, they all bleached their hair. Irene helped me do it. It's not a problem. Everything is fine. And he kept eating his steak. Howie, he looked at me in the serious tone without smiling at all. And he said, stay in your room until it grows out. I said, Dad, that could be weeks and weeks and weeks. And you know what his response was, Howie? Get used to your room. That was the end of the subject, end of the conversation.
At least I didn't find you.
Yep, absolutely.
Cindy, any thoughts there on your side?
Oh, I can remember how big his hands were when I got in trouble.
We can all remember that.
Nice. Irene, we'll let you pick up from there.
I was the good child. I didn't get.
Wait a minute, we're coming back in here. Hold on.
No, I don't really have any memories of that. I remember silly things, but nothing that important.
Well, everybody, thank you very much for participation. We really, all your sentiments just illustrate and remind us how special he was and how special this news that we all learned about yesterday is. So thank you, Art. Thank you, of course, to Ed. Thank you to Gil, Irene, and Cindy for your participation. Thank you, Sandy, for jumping on as well earlier. And you all have a great day, and we look forward to more celebrations as we get to the summer.
Thank you, Harold.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.